Hi, guys. Today we're talking about relationships and a spiritual awakening and what happens to them when you go through a shift. We're talking about the two different types of shifts that can happen with relationships. We're talking about uh, people pleasing, recovering from people pleasing, how to stand in your truth, how to recognize if you are stopping your partner from doing their own growth, um, how to recognize when it's time to make major shifts, and why it's not so easy to make those shifts, and some tips on how to make those shifts. You guys, I'm talking about this on the podcast today because all of my clients that go through my Awaken program end up having major shifts with their relationships. All of them. I always say to my clients, like, when you're thinking that you're going to do psychic and mediumship development, surprise, it's not all, unicorns and rainbows. Your relationships are going to change, and you might end up being on the struggle bus, because what happens is when you completely change your identity, every single relationship around you will change. It doesn't, the word's not must, it will, it's going to shift because you are a completely different version of yourself. When you go through the spiritual awakening, a lot of times you start becoming aware that you've been a people pleaser your whole life. How many of you guys, everybody raise your hand, even if you're just on the audio, the video, wherever you're watching or listening to this, raise your hand. Even if you're in your car, let somebody know how silly you feel, right? That you realize you're people pleasing and it's actually sabotaged your life up until this point. And maybe you're a recovering people pleaser. I always raise my hand to that because it's a consistent thing that you have to have effort. But let's talk about the two types of shifts that happen in relationships, right? And the spiritual awakening. Either you wake up one day and you're like, screw this relationship. I have had enough. A lot of times it's the super close relationships. So it's your mother, your father, your spouse, your partner, or your boss, right? A lot of times somebody with an authority figure, because you've given your power away. And one day you wake up and you say, screw this, I'm done with this. Where's my joy? Where's my happiness? And then you start seeking within. And a lot of times that's when people find me, because they want to question, why am I here? Why am I sacrificing my joy this whole time? There has to be more to life than this. So that's one way, is people already realize they had a kind of a toxic relationship, and then they dive into like a spiritual awakening aspect. And then when they do that, then they start realizing, wow, my relationships really, really are toxic and I can't go back. And we're going to talk about that on this episode. Because once you wake up, you can't really go back. We're going to talk about that. Or there's another type of shift, which is what happened with me and my late husband when we're talking about relationship shifting, right? Is I went through my spiritual awakening, realized I could see through time and space, realized I could speak to the dead, realized that I had guides that is working with me, realizing I'm this huge component in this electronic universe to help evolve us, right? Then you start talking a different language and everybody around you thinks you've lost your damn marbles, to the point where some people, such as my late husband, was like, I don't know, I'm really worried about your sanity. Right? Or to the point where, like, I don't want to talk about this. This makes me uncomfortable. Especially when we're talking about religion, right? Like one of my clients that I have right now, she has a daughter that's super religious. And if you start talking these types of languages, like, oh my gosh, the angel spoke with me today. My guides told me to do this. My guides told me to do something random and freaky, jump off the ledge and quit my job or whatever. The people around you are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's happening? And when you know to the core of your being, this is who I am now. This is the new me. Because when you go through your spiritual awakening, you find this connection, right? That's never been there before. And you do not want to lose it. Trust me. It's almost like they say when people, pass away and they have those near-death experiences, that they find such joy and bliss that they don't want to come back. And then a lot of times they have to come back down the tunnel and they get all sad because they're like, no, I didn't want to come back, because they felt such true bliss. Well, imagine going through your spiritual awakening and having these little hits like this, like, why you're here. You know that you belong, right? You know that you came here to create change, and you feel super special, and you have this connection, and you feel this connection with your angels and your guides. And look how excited I'm getting about it, because it's freaking true. There is no way that you want to let that go. So then you get to this point right? Where you're struggling with, I want this feeling in my life and I want it to be all around. And I want all the people around me to feel this joy and bliss, right? So this is where the struggle bus comes in, right? And you have to ask yourself, what is more important? What is more important? Me having healthy, conscious, emotional intelligence in these relationships, having my independence, and being in a partnership, not necessarily in an ownership, or how toxic relationships can get when you are doing this codependent behavior, right? Or all that past trauma is coming up. This people pleasing is huge for people going through their spiritual awakening, because the other person, right? I'm like spitting on my camera. If you guys are watching this, the other person is still the same and they are resisting your change. And because you love this other person, and because this other person or people or situation or job has been in your life for so long, you've attached to it, you've comforted it, right? You may change your behavior to make sure that they stay comfortable, that they're not angry, that your change doesn't affect them so greatly. You can, and you probably did this way before your change, is you would just be saying words like, I'm sorry, or changing your behavior, or changing the way you would do things, like, okay, I'll change my schedule for you. Putting yourself last in all the scenarios. Hello, people, so many of you parents do this right now too. And I get a lot of parents telling me I can't put myself first because I got to put my kids first. But I promise you, it's you. It's you. Plus, you need to teach your children these boundaries right now too. So people pleasing is an epifreaking-demic, and it comes bubbles right the hell up when you're going through your spiritual awakening. And then it's your job to decide, do I want to continue standing in my truth and feeling this joy and connection? Or is it going to be more comfortable for me to stay the same, even though now I know all of this stuff and I've been connected to all this stuff? Am I going to cram myself into this little box and just allow everybody just to stay the same around me? Or am I going to stretch and grow and feel the discomfort of these other people pushing against me? It's like, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Nothing's wrong with you. It's just, think of the dimensions are shifting. Everything's shifting. All changes uncomfortable. I say this in every freaking video that I make, right? If you decide, okay, I want to stay in my 25-year marriage, right? Or, my mom's just always going to be this toxic to me, so I'm going to just allow her to treat me this way forever. Even though I know in my heart of hearts that this is incorrect behavior, right? Maybe that's not the right word to use. It's behavior that doesn't stand in my truth. It's behavior that is resistant to who I am in the love and light department, or I'm not going to stand for being treated in certain ways, right? If you decide to stay the same, it is going to cause a major upheaval in your life. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Because you're telling the universe that you're not worth standing in your truth. You're telling your universe that these other people are more important than you. You're telling the universe that people are allowed to treat you in a certain way. You're telling the universe what you are worth. And in your heart of hearts, you're not going to be able to stay in that box. So even if you're like, okay, I'm going to try with this marriage, I'm going to try with this relationship, I'm going to try with this job, because how many of y'all in the spiritual awakening do not like your employment? How many of you guys feel like it's wrong to have to go somewhere, 9 to 5 or whatever? How many feel just so resistant against it, right? And maybe you're constantly like looking for another job, right? And that's a whole other story. But this is what's causing that upheaval, where it's like, this is not my truth. This is not my truth. And then you get in maybe arguments, and it's like this constant ebb and flow. It's also causing an upheaval because you're not being true to yourself at that point, right? If you decide to stay in an uncomfortable situation after you've been awakened, your guides will keep knocking at your door, I promise. The universe will keep giving you opportunities to feel that discomfort, because it's almost like a nudge. They're like wanting you to stand in your truth. So things will be okay for a minute because you sacrificed your truth and your joy, and then something will trigger you or to trigger the other people. And it's only happening for you. So my advice to all y'all watching this, get the support, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but go through the pain now. So it doesn't have to continue. Go through the pain now. It's going to help you. It's going to help everybody else, including all of the universe. Thank you very much. Because when you do your work, you're helping generations forward and backward and all around, right? But let's ask you this question too. If you're truly awakened, right, and you're truly this new version of yourself, and you're truly wanted to do this work, isn't it your responsibility to the other person, to the other party, to the universe itself, to let them do their work, to let them be without you in the scenario, right? As you shift, right? They always say with your job, you're always replaceable in your job. And we're always replaceable in a relationship too, in a way. These are just things that come and go, and the ebb and the flow. So it's really this simple to understand that if your relationship is not serving you, wouldn't it just be simple to make a decision to shift that? Whether you're going to be changing relationship dynamics, we're going to talk about that. Or you're going to let something go that no longer serves you, so that you and all the other parties can go and grow. Versus almost like, I talk about this with some empath stuff, right? This video is like for everybody going through that spiritual awakening, but I talk a lot about this with empaths, because when they're in a relationship, I call them earth angels, and they always feel like they're here to save other people. They feel like if they left a relationship, that they're doing the other person harm, that they're doing something wrong, or that they just didn't do enough to help this person. But I am promising you that it is your job. You're not here to save anybody else. You're here to save yourself. And when you save yourself, everyone must come up to you or fall away. The law of attraction says you cannot dip down in vibration to help someone else. You can only stand up here, and everyone else sees the beacon and they want to shift. Podcast episode, I believe it's number 11, around there, talks all about how my late husband almost left me because he thought I was crazy. But in the end, he said on that podcast episode, the reason why he came around and started like allowing me to be the crazy person that I was and that I am about talking to dead people. This isn't crazy. This is the real shit that's happening. The reason why is because he saw that connection, because he saw that joy, because he saw who I became versus who I was before. Angry, depressed, seeking my purpose, wondering what the hell I was here, broke, blaming the outside world for all my problems, wondering why I was such a good person, but that everything else was going wrong to me, right? Versus understanding physics, understanding spirit, working with spirit, understanding my joy, understanding why I'm freaking here, standing here, leading the freaking way, right? And he's like, damn, I want to feel that way too. So yes, relationships can change. Just because somebody thinks you're a freaking nutbag, or is having a hard time with your transition as a spiritual person, or whatever your identity shift, it can change, but a lot of them do fall away. So just be prepared. It's simple to understand. It's not that simple to implement. And so let me share a little bit about, I have a one program. It's been up there forever. It's called the Living as an Empath program. I think it's $199. I don't know. It's been out there forever, but in there, I talk about the empath's problem, and I talk about how we can shift our relationships with our language, with our behaviors, not by pushing the other person, not by telling the other person, hey, I've changed, so now it's your turn, sucker, right? Because I just talked about this morning. In your heart of hearts, I know, you guys, in your heart of freaking hearts, I know that you really want your people to change with you. You really want that because you found something freaking special, right? I was there. I was freaking there. You really want them to support you for who you are now effortlessly. You want them to be able to go, all right, Brandaleen, or whoever you are listening to this, you do sound like a nutbag. And, you have been, doing some weird exercises and meditating and doing some weird things, but all right, I'm willing to give you that. And I'm willing to, come in and explore this with you. That barely freaking happens. Okay. I'm just saying you want that to happen. So, but sorry, Charlie, that's probably not the case, right? It's probably not the case. So all of your relationship dynamics have to be traversed in a different way. Anyways, inside that Living as Empath, there's a few trainings on relationship dynamics and how you can shift it. So if that's for you, just go to my website, check that shit out. Okay. And this topic right here that I'm talking about is probably the top 5 reasons that people find me and want to work with me. Hands down, top 5 reasons people want to find me and work with me because of their relationships, and they want to figure out what the hell is going on. Or after they take my Awaken program, then they really want to work with me because they were really struggling with their relationships. And sorry, it's like everybody's going to be like, we don't want to take that program ever. Because your shit will go to, your whole life will change in a good way. But sometimes it's painful too. But anyway, like I just talked to everybody out of my program. But anyway, the spiritual awakening is 1,000,000% like therapy. Okay, people, it's like becoming your own therapist. I also want to say the spiritual awakening, this whole relationship topic, I want to say that a lot of people that go through their spiritual awakening or take my spiritual awakening program, the Awaken program, or go into healing work and stuff, end up talking about relationships, being relationship coaches, right? Being more of a therapy, like a spiritual counselor type of thing. Because what is the number one thing most of us struggle with? Is like relationships, right? That's like the number one thing we're doing. It's like becoming your own therapist because you start working with and for spirit, right? And you start when you have your spiritual awakening and you have your psychic awareness and all that developed, you start to be able to see other people's trauma. That's why us psychics and mediums are so great at helping other people, because we could see their trauma. But when we're talking about this video in particular, or this podcast in particular, you're an awakened person and you're in a relationship and you start seeing other people's trauma. It is so important for you to take a step back and be, okay, I witnessed this. I'm not judging it and I'm not going to try to fix it, but I'm conscious of it. And how do I fit in this relationship as my new self? How am I going to react? Respond? Am I going to react? Am I going to respond? Right? Remember, you're not here to save them. You're here to save your freaking self. So let me share a little bit more about these types of the relationships and the shifts and the dynamics. So if you're having lack of joy in your relationship, right, or relationships or your job, and you have not taken the Awaken program or the psychic and mediumship development, if you have not gone into there, that's where I'm steering you, right? Because this is where you need to awaken this part within you so you can get that connection and that joy, right? So if you're having lack of joy in your relationships right now, do that. If you need relationship support, specifically relationship support, or if you have already taken my Awaken program and you are struggling with navigating your life as this newly awakened person, then you're wanting my new program that I just having right now. And at the time I'm speaking to this podcast, it's July 9th. And it's something that I threw together. We're starting July 19th. And this is going to be 3 months support for biweekly calls. If you're watching this and it's like 2 years down the road, just hit me up. I do these types of things here and there. So I'm grabbing a handful of people, maybe 10 people for 3 months of support in a spiritual spiritual energetic container with other spiritual people that are having these same experiences. Then you're going to want to comment on this video, find me on brandaleen.com and get signed up right away for that. But otherwise, how are your relationships? Hopefully this video helped you understand all the different types of shifts, the importance of standing in your truth, the fact that you, my friend, need to stop the people pleasing, because that's going to keep you in a prison of going back and forth, of trying to have your joy, trying to force a situation, trying to make other people happy, or trying to make other people come along with you. Ain't happening. This is your journey. And it's so important for you to get that. It really, really, truly is for you to just be like, this is my journey. I come first. I come first. And when you do that, I promise you, spirit is going to freaking reward you, because all the people pleasing and all of that is holding abundance away from you. It's holding joy away from you. It's holding your purpose away from you. It's keeping you in like a little chamber, and it sucks to be there. And if you need that support to get out of that situation, then hit me up. I'm sending you guys so much love. I hope you love this episode and it helped you tremendously. Okay. Have a great day.